I discovered my daughter sleeping on the street. Her husband had sold their house and left with his mistress. I brought her home. The next morning, I went to their luxury apartment building, and when he opened the door, I said something he will never forget. I found my daughter sleeping on the street at 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday in October. Not in a shelter, not staying on a friend's couch, not even in her car. On the actual pavement in an alley behind a CVS on Morrison Avenue, curled up between cardboard boxes and a dumpster. Her winter coat was pulled over her head like a small shield against the rain. A puddle was forming around her, and her jeans were completely soaked. Her shoes, the expensive running shoes I had bought her for Christmas last year, were covered in mud and what looked like motor oil. "Emma," I said, but my voice sounded strained, almost unfamiliar. I had been driving home from a late meeting, consulting work for a tech startup that ran close to midnight, when I saw her, or thought I did. A glimpse of auburn hair, the same shade as her mother's. The familiar way she curled up when she was cold, knees pulled in, arms wrapped around herself. Something about her shape registered in my mind, even through the darkness, rain, and fog. I hit the brakes so hard the seatbelt locked. I pulled over illegally in a loading zone. I didn't even shut off the engine. I ran back through the rain without an umbrella, without my jacket, without thinking about anything except reaching her. Now I stood there, rain streaming down my face, my dress shirt clinging to my skin, staring at my 26-year-old daughter sleeping in an alley like she had no one, like she didn't have a father who cared for her, like she had nowhere safe to go. "Emma, sweetheart, what happened?" She shifted and slowly looked up, like she was coming up from deep water. Her face was dirty, streaked with mud and what appeared to be dried tears, days old and set into her cheeks. Her eyes were hollow in a way I had never seen before, not even when her mother passed away 5 years ago. That had been grief. This was different. This was hopelessness. This was the expression of someone who had completely given up. Dad. Her voice cracked. She began crying immediately, heavy, uncontrollable sobs that shook her entire body. "He sold the house. He took everything. I didn't know where to go. I didn't know who to call. My phone died 2 days ago, and I couldn't. My hands shook as I helped her stand. She was lighter than she should have been, at least 15 pounds less than the last time I hugged her, which made me stop and think. When was the last time I had seen her? 6 weeks ago? 2 months? How long had this been going on? "Who?" I asked, even though I already knew. There was only one person who could have done this. "David?" She nodded, barely able to speak through her tears. "He moved in with his girlfriend, some luxury building downtown, Riverside Towers. He showed me pictures while he was packing. He showed me how nice it was, how much better than the house, than our house, Mom's house." Her voice broke again. "He told me I deserved nothing, that I was pathetic for thinking I had any claim to anything. He said I should be grateful he didn't have me arrested for trespassing when I tried to get my things." She was shaking now, her entire body trembling from cold, shock, and exhaustion. "He changed the locks while I was at work. I came home and my key didn't work. There was a note taped to the door. It said, 'Your belongings are in storage, Unit 247. You have 30 days to collect them before they're auctioned. Do not contact me again.'" Something inside my chest fractured. Not a clean break, but a painful splintering of something I believed was stable. This was my daughter, my only child, the little girl who held my hand on her first day of kindergarten, the teenager who called me crying after her first heartbreak, the young woman who made me proud when she graduated college with honors, the woman who had been so joyful on her wedding day. She had once truly glowed, and now she was here in an alley, sleeping among trash because the man she married had ruined her life. "How long?" My voice sounded rough. "How long have you been out here?" 4 days. Maybe 5. I lost track. 5 days. 5 days my daughter had been without shelter and I hadn't known. I hadn't checked on her. I hadn't called. "Why didn't you call me?" "I tried. My phone died and I didn't have money for a charger. I was too embarrassed to ask someone to use their phone and say, 'Hi, my husband kicked me out and I've been sleeping on the street. Can I please call my dad?'" The words rushed out, defensive and exhausted. "Emma," I pulled her into a hug, not caring that she was wet, dirty, and likely hadn't showered in days. You could have come to my door at 3 in the morning covered in blood, and I would have said, "Come in, we'll fix this." Do you understand? There is nothing you could ever do or have happen to you that would make me not want to help you. She cried into my shoulder. I felt her knees give out and caught her, holding her upright, as I realized how cold she was. Dangerously cold. How long had she been out in this rain? "Let's get you home," I said. "Let's get you warm. We'll sort out the rest later." Something inside me fractured. I brought Emma home. My home. The house where she grew up, where her mother and I raised her, where she learned to ride a bike in the driveway and had her first kiss on the front porch. The house she moved out of 3 years ago when she married David Morrison. I ran her a hot bath, made soup and grilled cheese, her comfort meal since she was 6, changed the sheets on her old bed, and let her shower and put on clean clothes I had kept from before she moved out. She fell asleep almost immediately, exhausted in a way that went beyond physical tiredness. I didn't sleep. I stayed in the kitchen going through Emma's phone. She handed it to me quietly before going to bed, as if she knew I needed to see everything, as if she wanted me to fully understand what had happened. The saved texts, the emails, the property documents she had printed months earlier when she first suspected something was wrong. David had transferred the house into his name alone, not joint ownership like it had been for 3 years. He had done it 6 months earlier using a forged notarized document with Emma's signature. Emma didn't discover this until 2 weeks ago, when he told her he wanted a divorce and that she needed to move out of her own house. What made it worse was that the house had not been purchased by Emma and David together. It had been inherited, left to Emma in her mother Catherine's will when cancer took her at 52. It was a beautiful craftsman-style home in northeast Portland, 3 bedrooms, recently renovated, worth about $600,000 in the current market. David sold it for $587,000. Cash sale, fast closing. The money went into an offshore account. Emma found the wire transfer receipts in his email. Then he moved into Riverside Towers with his girlfriend Ashley, a 23-year-old pharmaceutical sales representative he had been involved with for 18 months. She was 5 months pregnant, according to the ultrasound image Emma found on his tablet. He had planned this for over a year, maybe longer. And Emma, my intelligent, kind, trusting daughter, had been blindsided by all of it. I sat at the kitchen table reading everything until 4:17 a.m. Then I made coffee and read it again. By the time Emma woke up around noon, I had a plan. "Dad," she said as she shuffled into the kitchen wearing her old college sweatshirt, hair still damp from another shower. "What are you thinking about?" She knew me well and could see the calculations in my expression. "I'm thinking," I said carefully, "that your husband made a serious mistake." "It's over," she said flatly. "The house is sold. The money is gone. His lawyer sent paperwork saying I have no claim because I signed the deed transfer. I just want to move on." "Emma, look at me." She hesitated but met my eyes. "It's not over until you get what belongs to you." "Dad, I can't afford a lawyer. I can't afford anything. I have $847 in my account and a car that needs $1,200 in repairs. I can't fight this." "You don't have to," I said, pulling out my phone. "I can." I called Benjamin Caldwell. He handled Catherine's estate 5 years earlier and helped us navigate probate. He ensured Emma inherited the house properly and had been firm when her aunt tried to challenge the will. He answered on the 3rd ring. "Thomas, it's been a while." "Ben, I need you. It's about Emma." "What happened?" I explained everything. The forged signature, the fraudulent deed transfer, the offshore account, the pregnant girlfriend, and Emma sleeping in an alley. When I finished, there was a long pause. "Thomas, what you're describing is felony fraud on multiple counts. Forgery, wire fraud, possibly theft by deception. This isn't only civil court, this is criminal." "Good. I'm serious. We can take him down completely, but it will get messy." "It's already messy, Ben. My daughter was homeless." Another pause. I heard him moving, likely grabbing a pen. "I need every document Emma has, every text, every email. Can you bring her to my office today?" "Yes, this afternoon. 2 o'clock. I'll clear my schedule." Emma watched me across the table, hope and fear competing in her expression. "One more thing, Ben." "What is it?" Before we move forward legally, I want to do something first. I want to look him in the eye. I want him to know what's coming. That's risky. You could affect the case. I won't threaten him. I'll simply talk. Let him know I'm aware. Is that illegal? Ben sighed. No, but be careful. Don't say anything that could be viewed as intimidation or harassment. Be smart. I always am, Ben. That's what worries me. We met Benjamin Caldwell at 2 p.m. His office was downtown in the U.S. Bank Tower on the 23rd floor, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Willamette River. He was 58, gray-haired, wearing wireframe glasses, someone who looked like a professor but fought cases aggressively. He spread Emma's documents across the conference table and studied them for 20 minutes without speaking. Emma sat beside me, picking at her fingernails, clearly anxious. Finally, Ben looked up. This is one of the clearest fraud cases I've seen in 30 years. The forged signature alone is enough, but combined with the wire transfers, offshore account, and the timing of the sale before the divorce request, this is textbook financial abuse. Can we recover the money? Emma asked quietly. Yes, all of it, plus damages and legal fees. Ben leaned forward. More importantly, I want David Morrison to face criminal charges. What he did to you isn't just unethical. It's illegal. He belongs in prison. Emma's hands began shaking. Prison? He committed multiple felonies. Wire fraud can carry up to 20 years. Forgery can carry up to 10. He won't receive the maximum, especially as a first-time offender, but he will serve time. And he should. I watched Emma absorb this. The woman who married David 3 years ago in a small ceremony at Powell Gardens. The woman who had been so hopeful, so convinced she had found her partner. Okay, she whispered. Okay. Ben contacted Detective Laura Fisher from the Portland Police Bureau's Financial Crimes Unit. She had investigated white-collar crime for 12 years. She arrived at Ben's office at 4:30 p.m., reviewed the documents, and by 5:15 p.m., she had opened a formal investigation. The offshore account will be the key, she said, making notes on her tablet. If we can show he transferred money to hide assets during a divorce, that's wire fraud and federal charges. The FBI will become involved. How long will this take? I asked. It depends. We need to freeze the accounts first, obtain warrants for his financial records, and build the case. It could take a few weeks or a few months. She looked at Emma. You'll need to provide a full statement, a detailed timeline, copies of every message, and proof of the forgery. I can do that, Emma said. Good. Detective Fisher stood. I'll stay in touch. Mr. Caldwell has my direct number. Call me if David contacts Emma or if anything else occurs. After she left, Ben looked at me. You still want to go see him? Yes, tonight. Be careful, Thomas. He's already shown he's willing to commit fraud. He could be dangerous. He's not dangerous, I replied. He's just cruel. There's a difference. I arrived at Riverside Towers at 7:23 p.m. Emma stayed at Ben's office with his paralegal, organizing documents and preparing her statement. Riverside Towers was exactly as expected. Glass, steel, valet service, the kind of place that announced wealth and status. I walked past the doorman confidently. Elevator to the 8th floor, apartment 8C. I paused outside the door and listened. David's voice. A woman laughing. The sound of wine glasses touching. They were celebrating. I knocked. Footsteps approached. Light ones first, likely Ashley, then heavier steps. David. The door opened. David Morrison stood in expensive lounge clothes, designer joggers, and a hoodie that probably cost several $100s. His hair was styled carefully, the kind of look that seems effortless but takes time. His face carried the confident satisfaction of someone who believed he had outsmarted everyone. He held a glass of red wine, clearly high quality based on the glassware behind him. I could see into the apartment. Open layout, floor-to-ceiling windows, modern furniture that looked straight out of a luxury catalog. Everything clean, polished, and costly. Paid for with my daughter's money. Can I help you? His tone was dismissive, irritated at the interruption. Then he recognized me, and his expression shifted briefly to alarm. Oh, Thomas. Hello, David. He quickly recovered, straightening his posture and putting on confidence. What do you want? We have nothing to discuss. Emma and I are finished. Tell her to stop calling me. Tell her to stop harassing me. I'll file for a restraining order if she doesn't. That claim was absurd. Emma hadn't called or messaged him even once. She had been focused on surviving. She hasn't contacted you at all, I said calmly. Then why are you here? Because I found her sleeping on the street last night. His confident smile faltered for a brief moment, then returned, forced. That's not my problem. She's an adult. She made her choices. She didn't choose to be defrauded. I didn't defraud anyone, he snapped, his voice rising defensively. That house was in my name. I had every legal right to sell it. She signed the documents. It's not my fault she didn't read them. She never signed those documents. You forged her signature. That's a lie. You can't prove that. Actually, I said, slowly pulling out my phone so he could see the motion clearly, I can. My attorney, Benjamin Caldwell, 30 years in estate law, filed a police report this afternoon. Detective Laura Fisher with the Portland Police Bureau's Financial Crimes Unit is reviewing your offshore accounts, and the FBI is involved, since transferring nearly $600,000 overseas without reporting it is a federal crime. The color drained from his face, starting at his forehead and moving downward. His hand tightened around the wine glass, knuckles whitening. You're bluffing. You're trying to scare me. Am I? I opened an email on my phone and showed him. Official Portland Police Bureau letterhead. Case number. Detective Fisher's name and badge. This case was opened today at 5:47 p.m. The offshore account is already flagged. By Monday, they'll have warrants for your financial records. His breathing quickened. Sweat appeared on his forehead despite the cool air. Behind him, a young woman stepped into view. Early 20s, blonde ponytail, visibly pregnant, one hand resting protectively on her stomach. She wore expensive maternity clothes and looked financially supported. David, who is this? She asked. Nobody. David snapped without looking at her. Go back inside, Ashley. I smiled at her, calm, controlled, without warmth. I'm Emma's father. You must be the woman he's been seeing. Her eyes widened. Her hand moved to her throat. We're together. We're in a relationship. We're having a baby. Congratulations, I said evenly. David told you Emma left him, didn't he? That she was unstable, that she couldn't handle his success, that the marriage ended long before you entered the picture. Ashley hesitated, uncertainty crossing her face. She looked at David for reassurance. He said the marriage had been over for years, that they were only going through the motions, and that divorce was mutual. He lied. I stepped slightly closer to the doorway. David shifted to block me, though I wasn't trying to enter. I wanted both of them to focus fully on what I was saying. He sold her house while she was at work, forged her signature on legal paperwork, transferred the deed into his name alone, left her with nothing, not even her clothes. She was homeless for 5 days, sleeping in an alley behind a CVS, while you were here drinking wine in an apartment paid for with stolen money. That's not true, David said sharply. Don't listen to him. He's trying to ruin us because he can't accept that Emma and I are finished. I raised my phone again, showing the prepared bank records. These are wire transfers from the sale. $587,000 into an offshore account in the Cayman Islands, account ending in 47 and 92, opened 14 months ago. Then gradual withdrawals over 6 months totaling $234,000, exactly matching the down payment on this apartment. I also have the mortgage documents. Ashley had gone pale. She stared at David with visible doubt. David, what is he talking about? It's complicated, David said too quickly. The house was marital property. We bought it together. I had the right to sell it. The money is partly mine. This is just a disagreement about asset division. Here's a professionally rewritten version that keeps the structure, pacing, and meaning intact, while simplifying wording and avoiding repetition, well within the 10% change limit. The house was inherited, I cut in, keeping my voice calm and firm. It was never marital property. Emma inherited it from her mother, Catherine, 5 years ago. It was her separate asset. You had no legal authority to sell it. That's why you forged her signature. And when Detective Fisher receives the handwriting report, it will show the signature was written by a right-handed person, even though Emma is left-handed and has a very distinct slanted signature. You can't prove that, David said faintly. The forensic specialist already has the documents. The results should be back by Monday. I turned toward Ashley, who was now clearly trembling. You should also know this apartment could be considered proceeds of a crime. If David is convicted, and he will be, The court can seize this property through asset forfeiture. You may need to start looking for another place to live." "What?" she murmured. "That's not true," David argued, but his voice had lost its edge. His face had gone pale. "He doesn't know what he's talking about." "I'm not a lawyer," I said evenly, "but Benjamin Caldwell is. So is Helen Porter, the assistant district attorney assigned to this case, and 3 FBI agents are reviewing the offshore account activity." I opened another file on my phone. "I'm also aware of the 18 months of documented evidence Emma has of your affair, text messages between you and Ashley, hotel receipts from the Marriott on 3rd Street, usually Thursday afternoons, and the ultrasound image on your tablet showing a due date that confirms this child was conceived while you were still married to Emma. That shows intent, David. That you plan to leave Emma while simultaneously taking her assets so she would be left with nothing and you could start a new life with Ashley. If you'd like, I can also tighten the tension, sharpen the emotional impact, or adapt this for narration or YouTube storytelling. Here's a polished, professional rewrite of your scene, keeping the drama, pacing, and structure intact while tightening some sentences and clarifying emotions. Ashley was crying now, mascara streaking her cheeks. "You said your marriage was already over when we met. You said you were separated. You said it was finished." "It was basically over," David shouted. "I just hadn't moved out yet." "He's lying to you the same way he lied to my daughter," I said softly to Ashley, my tone calm, almost gentle. She was young, pregnant, and naive, not malicious. In her own way, she was also a victim. "He will lie to you eventually, just as he lied to Emma. Do you really think you're different? You're not. You're simply the next woman who believed him. And when he gets bored, needs money, or finds someone younger, he will treat you exactly the way he treated Emma." David lunged forward, wine sloshing in his glass. "Get out. Get out of my apartment." "I'm leaving," I said evenly, not moving. "But the police will be here soon. Probably tomorrow or Friday. They'll want to ask about the offshore accounts, the house sale, and the forged paperwork. The FBI is reviewing your tax filings as well. Moving that much money offshore without reporting it is another felony. The Treasury gets involved in cases like that." His hands shook so violently he had to clench his fists. The wine glass slipped, shattering on the hardwood floor. Red wine spread across the rug and his clothes. He barely noticed. "David Morrison," I said, letting my voice harden for the first time, "you assumed my daughter was weak because she loved you. You thought you could take everything from her and she would accept it because she's kind and trusting. You also assumed I wouldn't intervene. You were wrong on all 3 counts." I turned to leave, then paused. "One more thing. Emma is no longer homeless. She's with me, safe, warm, and supported. When this is finished, when you're arrested, when this apartment is seized, and when the court orders full repayment plus damages, she will recover everything you took and more." Behind me, Ashley shouted while David tried to explain. Doors slammed. I walked to the elevator and pressed the button. As the doors closed, I saw David step into the hallway, hands on his face, the life he built crumbling around him. The next morning, Detective Fisher called. "We executed the warrant and froze the offshore account. There's still $353,000 remaining. The rest went toward the apartment and what appears to be an expensive engagement ring." "Is that enough to press charges?" "More than enough. The wire transfers alone qualify for federal charges. But there's more. We reviewed his employment records. David works in commercial real estate, correct? If you want, I can also rewrite both of your last submissions together as one seamless, cinematic, high-tension chapter, like something ready for a thriller or YouTube dramatization, with punchy beats and emotional resonance. It would feel very movie-like. Do you want me to do that?"